This session is called the EV and Sustainability Journey with Geotab. Of course, not every fleet is in the position to switch either partially or fully to fleet electrification, but fleets can have a positive impact on society and the environment. And so it is good, it is recommendable to see which kind of vehicles in your fleet you can switch to electrification. And today with us is David Savage. He is Associate Vice President for the UK and Ireland at Geotab. And David has really a good understanding about how to deal with fleet electrification. And he is also at the forefront at Geotab about turning vehicle fleets, thanks to the connectivity solutions of Geotab, into a more efficient and sustainable fleet. David, welcome to the 2021 Connected Fleets Conference. I hope that you are doing well.
Very well, Stephen. Very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yes, nice to have you. And also, once again, thank you for the support of Geotab to make this conference possible. You have a presentation lined up for us. To the audience, if you have questions for David, you can ask your questions via the chat function, and at the end we will moderate the most interesting ones and ask them to David. So David, if you are ready, we are ready. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and put myself on mute so that you have full attention and that you can share your screen. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephen.
Perfect, David.
Excellent. Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. My name is David Savage, and I am the Associate Vice President for the UK and the Irish markets here at Geotab. And thank you very much for joining this session to discuss the EV and sustainability journey. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Geotab, I'd like to spend just a few minutes introducing who we are and what we do. So Geotab was established in Canada in the year 2000 by the Coors family, with a very distinct vision to improve safety and enhance productivity of commercial fleets. Our telematics solutions allow businesses to automate operations by integrating vehicle data and other data assets. And our solution can work in all sizes of vehicles, from e-cargo bikes right the way through to heavy goods vehicles. The key to our growth has been embracing an open platform approach to fleet management solutions. What this means in reality is that the end customer owns their own data with unfiltered access and can be viewed whenever, however, and given to whomever they like. This open platform approach lays the groundwork for informed decision-making and business efficiency. So over 21 years since we launched, I'm very pleased to say that we are still privately owned with no outside investment and are now the global leader in connected vehicles and fleet telematics, with our solutions being found in over 2.3 million vehicles across the globe. As well as working across multiple vehicle types, we also work with customers with fleets of all sizes and across a very broad spectrum of different industries. So our smallest end customer operates a fleet of just one vehicle, and our largest end customer has a fleet of over 200,000 vehicles. We have a customer base of over 44,000 spread across 130 different countries. And each of these customers rely on the Geotab telematics solution to operate their fleets, as well as support them on what has truly become a global journey towards fleet electrification and sustainability. Just some of the end customers that rely on our solution include well-known brands such as PepsiCo, Telefonica, Enterprise, and we're also the sole provider of telematics to the state of California. But why do fleets need telematics? Well, very simply, to help improve productivity and optimization. Long gone are the days when telematics was merely about GPS. And as vehicles have become more complex, so have the demands on businesses and fleets to operate more efficiently. And these efficiencies can only be achieved by tapping into data and drawing actionable insights. At Geotab, we process over 40 billion data points on a daily basis and can capture insights on location, acceleration, harsh braking, seatbelt usage, engine diagnostics, real-time state of charge, to name but a few. And in a world that isn't standing still, innovation, evolution, and in some cases revolution are critical to success. We invest a significant proportion of our profits back into research and development to ensure that we're continuing to support the needs of our end customers. And this investment is guided by data, customer feedback, and is channeled back into our 6 pillars of innovation. These cover productivity, fleet optimization, safety, compliance, expandability, and highlighted in green, sustainability. Sustainability is arguably our most important pillar, and is certainly the one that we are spending an increasing amount of time discussing as fleets work on reducing emissions and electrifying their fleets.
David, sorry, but we have the impression that you are not moving your slides. Is that possible?
They are moving.
Okay, there is then something wrong because we still have the first slide. Now they are moving, indeed.
Okay. Are you on the EU mobility strategy slide now?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So there seems to be a bit of a lag. Not sure why that's happening, but let's continue on. So we are all on a shared mission to create a less polluted environment, slow global warming, and create a more sustainable world for future generations to enjoy. And in December of last year, the European Commission launched its EU mobility strategy, putting in place 82 different initiatives to be delivered over a 4-year period to achieve the mission of a 90% cut in emissions by 2050. Some of the milestones along the way will include 30 million zero-emission vehicles on our roads by 2030 and 100 European cities targeted to be carbon neutral. And just some of the corrective actions outlined in this strategy include work with individual countries on incentive schemes, as well as improving charging infrastructure. And it's estimated that vehicles contribute 22% of total CO2 emissions across the UK and EU. And CO2, as we all know, is a major contributor of climate change. Another interesting statistic I'd like to share is that it is estimated that of the CO2 produced over a vehicle's lifespan, 10% comes during manufacture, 85% from fuel and servicing, and 5% from its disposal at the end of its life. And it is this 85% that we operating in the fleet sector can truly work to reduce. But before we move on, let's just remind ourselves of that lofty target of achieving fleet electrification of 30 million vehicles by 2030. And with ambitious targets in place, it's really interesting to start to have a look at the accelerated growth of EV adoption at a global level. So in 2020, Europe experienced a 137% year-on-year growth in the registration of electric vehicles, and is now the fastest growing region in the world for EV adoption, and second only to China in terms of EVs actually on the road. And whilst this is an incredibly positive move, it does highlight the scale of the challenge we have ahead over the next 9 years to hit those EU targets. Now, we've all been party to conversations where we've heard the views that EVs are just simply too expensive. And frequently this view is based upon the upfront purchase price. But as we all embark on this electrification journey, it's important to shift the view from the upfront purchase price towards the total cost of ownership. This is where the economic argument really strengthens. But how can the total cost of ownership of an EV be less, or at least competitive, with an internal combustion vehicle? Well, there are numerous grants available from government bodies all across Europe, and simply EVs are just different. An electric vehicle has on average 20 moving parts compared to over 2,000 in an internal combustion engine. So there's less to go wrong, there will be less maintenance required over the lifetime of the vehicle, and powering a vehicle with electricity rather than fossil fuels is over 50% cheaper. It is likely that further savings will be found as advances in technology ensure that purchasing, refueling, maintaining, and even insuring electric vehicles becomes easier and cheaper. The next big challenge once a decision has been made to start fleet electrification is to understand that this needs to be a phased approach. It won't be possible or practical to transition an entire fleet at once. And this is where telematics and the data insights it can provide are a critical partner in fleet electrification. Now, there are 3 stages in the journey to fleet electrification as we see it at Geotab: go electric, operate electric, and scale electric. And at every stage of the journey, the data and expertise provided by a strong telematics partner will help ensure success. Let's start by looking at going electric. So fleet transition cannot be delivered through a one-size-fits-all approach. Personalization and customization are key. In practice, this means that there needs to be a deep understanding of how the existing fleet of petrol and diesel vehicles are operating. It's important to know each vehicle's duty cycle and its driving pattern to understand whether there is actually an EV on the market today that can serve that route without having to charge over the course of a working day. Quite simply, there is no manual workaround for this. This requires an accurate and data-driven EV recommendation tool. And at Geotab, we have over 10 years of experience within the EV space, and our electric vehicle suitability assessment platform really helps to take the guesswork out of fleet transition. So the EVSA, at a very basic level, analyzes a fleet's data from a minimum of 30 days up to 12 months and creates an electrification recommendation based on each vehicle's distinctive driving pattern. And this best fit recommendation identifies which of the vehicles are the best candidates for the replacement by EVs. The analysis includes vehicle type, range capability, and projected savings, as well as quantifying the environmental benefits of switching to EVs by looking at carbon emission reductions. What we find is that there is rarely possible for a fleet to transition all vehicles to EVs straight away. This may change as the number and options of EVs grow, but it's not yet the case. And telematics data is critical to understanding the current state of a fleet and delivering a suitable EV transition plan. And transition, by its very definition, indicates that the switch from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles will take time in almost any fleet. But just because an entire fleet is not EV, that doesn't mean that there can't be sustainability improvements within the remaining petrol and diesel vehicles. So let's look at a few quick wins. So firstly, reducing vehicle idling. So idling means that the engine is running whilst the vehicle is stationary. So for example, making a delivery. Idling burns fuel, which is both an environmental impact, as CO2 emissions are still being created, and also an economic impact. So for example, a vehicle idling for an hour can burn up to 4.5 liters of fuel. And through telematics, vehicle idling can be reduced. A good benchmark would be to aim to get an individual vehicle's idle time down to around 10% over the course of a working day. And data can drive the insights that will lead to improvements, either through in-vehicle driver alerts or to support on driver coaching. Secondly, reducing aggressive driving. Now, aggressive driving can take several forms, such as speeding, harsh braking, harsh acceleration, and even cornering. And this is an important area where CO2 emissions are correlated to fuel consumption. So CO2 emissions are increased by up to 50% when aggressive driving patterns are evident. And looking at our own experience, we have a few tools that can help make improvements here. So an example would be our driver scorecard, which allows individual driver performance to be compared to the overall fleet average. And using these insights, fleet managers can engage in gamification to incentivize good or even improved performance. And finally, route optimization. Positive route management should save on travel time and miles driven, resulting in reduced fuel burn and consequently emissions. So a successful EV transition strategy really needs to be a marriage of EV transition and improving the sustainable usage of the remaining petrol and diesel vehicles within a fleet. But once EVs have been integrated into a fleet, how can they be managed? Well, electric fleet management and traditional fleet management have many similarities, but at the same time, they're also very different. And whilst you will want to continue monitoring traditional fleet telematics, such as utilization, there are brand new metrics to monitor with EVs, such as state of charge, charging session details, and for plug-in hybrids, electric miles versus fuel miles. Ideally, the mix of petrol and diesel and EV vehicles should be managed through one platform, and there are three distinct benefits to this. Firstly, optimizing electric range through fuel efficiency measurement, reporting on charging activities, and finally, using real-time information to make decisions about your fleet. So to optimize the range, it's important to look at reporting of kilowatt hours per mile, or alternatively, the fuel efficiency of your EVs. This allows you to compare the efficiencies of each vehicle and help adjust operational behavior to increase this efficiency. So safe driving practices such as smooth braking and smooth acceleration can help increase the electric range of a vehicle. And obviously, the larger the range of the vehicle, the less time that vehicle has to spend charging. And reporting on charging activities is one of the biggest challenges we're finding in the market at the moment. And currently there is a mix of ways that fleets can do this through charging station providers and electricity bills. However, this is only a part of the solution. For a true equivalency to conventional assets, you need to be able to account each kilowatt hour charged to each vehicle, the same as you would with the number of gallons or liters of petrol or diesel. Our platform reports this for each vehicle as a record from a charging session. So along with the location of that charging session, the length of the charging session, the kilowatt rate being charged, the closing and starting state of charge, as well as the time of the session. And this allows a fleet to be able to fully allocate the costs of charging per vehicle. And a record of charging by vehicle shows you charging patterns for different vehicles. And using the telematics data, you can understand when vehicles are charging and ensure that they're charging every day to maximize the electric range available. The third benefit of having an all-in-one telematics solution is the ability to leverage real-time information on your electric vehicles to help optimize your fleet's operating abilities. Now, just looking at the title of this slide, the most important word here is partner. So we are all on a long journey to fleet electrification, and fleet managers should be looking for a long-term partner that will commit and support them go electric, operate electric, and scale electric. So be confident in your partner to guide you through the entire journey, from helping reduce vehicle emissions with internal combustion vehicles to EV procurement and effective EV management. Be confident your partner has the ability to scale with you and support the EV models you require. Be confident your partner offers the right support for EVs. And finally, make sure to ask the right questions. And here are a few critical questions we believe it's worth asking. So can you help me electrify? So does your chosen partner offer an EV transition platform that is based on real-world data? Does the telematics system provide the basic driving and charging data I need? Can my telematics system be customized for my fleet-specific EV needs? And does my telematics system support all of the vehicles I am interested in today and in the future? And this point is very, very important. So there are currently over 200 electric makes and models available, with this figure expected to rise to 500 by 2022. So it's important to understand how many makes and models are supported by your telematics partner, both now and how quickly your desired makes and models can be added. If your telematics partner can answer yes to all of these questions, then congratulations, you found a strong partner. So in conclusion, as electrification continues to become a priority to save fleets on fuel costs and reduce carbon emissions, it's key to have a telematics platform that can provide all of the necessary tooling to monitor your conventional vehicles and your electric vehicles. And by having all of this information in one place, you are empowered to optimize the fleet usage and ensure that you are getting the maximum return on investment from your electric fleet. We're now at the end of today's presentation. Thank you for your time. And my email is on the slide to continue the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. David Savage, Associate Vice President, UK and Ireland for our founding partner, Geotab. David, first question. You have the electric vehicle suitability assessment tool. We are today zooming in also on light commercial vehicles and commercial fleets. Does this tool also allow for the assessment of light commercial vehicles?
Absolutely. Light commercial vehicles are core to our business, and absolutely they are supported through the EVSA, as well as form an integral part of our make and model support for fleets that are then moving to operate electric.
A question in the chat. Are you offering also a fleet management solution follow-up after that at Geotab?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because there's a question about, are you offering such a combining fleet management solution at Geotab?
Yeah, fleet management has been what the business has been founded on for over 20 years. As I mentioned during the presentation, we have over a decade's worth of experience on EV and EV transition, and we've married both of those components up. So what we're looking at is not just the transition portion, but also the fleet management solution that supports the operation of electric vehicles in partnership or in a marriage with the internal combustion vehicles that most fleets will continue to operate, certainly for the next 9 years or so.
Do you also, with the solutions that you offer, have, let's say, guidance for the drivers themselves in the way that they see what their driver behavior is if they are driving electric, how they can optimize, etc.? Or is it more linked and based on what the company, the fleet manager, can do?
So we have, as I mentioned during the presentation, our driver scorecard, which is customizable for a fleet manager to decide which parameters they wish to assess from their driver pool. The driver is often an overlooked component on the success of an EV transition. There's a very big focus on the mechanical and the technical side of it. Actually, the human component is going to be what really drives a very successful EV transition and also operation. So things like the driver scorecard we have can help monitor, the harsh braking, the harsh acceleration, how the driver is interacting with the vehicle, and then a fleet manager can make informed decisions as to how they want to improve that behavior. Whether it is through training courses or gamification is something we're seeing quite a lot of in EV transition. So a little bit of competition from drivers within a fleet. So it allows a degree of flexibility for fleet managers and how they wish to customize that solution.
A practical question. I am based in Belgium. It could be that based on the driver profiling, there is a bunch of vehicles in my fleet that could be transformed into electric. But in Belgium, the public charging infrastructure is not really sufficient. Does your solution also take into account the charging infrastructure of the country?
At a country level, it's something we're looking to add in. It's not currently available, but we can certainly support on providing guidance with that, because even though we don't have it in the platform, we certainly have in-market expertise.
You were mentioning in your presentation that even if some of the vehicles can't be immediately switched to EV, that as a fleet manager, you can also always look at how to make your fleet vehicles and your fleet more sustainable, and that thanks to telematics and connected solutions, you can gain efficiency in terms of productivity, fleet optimization, and safety. Is there one of the three that you say, this is really the low-hanging fruit?
Very good point. You know, I think if you look at the 3 points I put there, I would say they're all relatively quick and easy wins. And actually, the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts in that case. So if you look at vehicle idling, it's interesting. You know, if you look at delivery vehicles, you know, typically the driver will get out, leave the engine on, make the delivery, get back in. If you add up all of those stops, particularly with last mile delivery, where we've seen incredible growth during COVID, then just reducing that idling through driving behavior can have a significant reduction in those emissions, and also the fuel burn, which is going to have economic improvements as well. And then you've got the driver coaching aspect that I touched upon as well. So the points I outlined in the presentation, I would say, are all low-hanging fruit.
Okay. We know, of course, that in Europe there is a difference in how countries and people look at connected solutions and telematics. In some countries, you also have very strong working councils. What is your advice to fleet managers that could have some kind of obstacle within some countries because of regulation or skepticism or reluctance from management and from the working councils to include and integrate telematics?
Yeah, I mean, we have encountered that, absolutely. You know, we see it sometimes in the UK through unionized drivers, as well as, other territories in Europe as well. Typically, what we adopt is an approach where we work very collaboratively through our reseller network through to the end customers to understand what the pain points are and build out a proof of concept or the ROI, and really work with them to mitigate the concerns of those worker councils. And we've had a lot of success with that kind of approach.
Okay. David, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for answering the questions. Please stay with us for the rest of the conference, and to the audience, if you have questions for David, you can ask them via the chat, or you can visit the booth of our founding partner Geotab also later on, where you will be able to ask your questions to the experts at Geotab. Thank you very much, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, everyone.